100 more killed as Israel-Hamas war enters its 100th day. Arctic blast causes severe winter weather in America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Daryl Baptist and this is World Today. The Israel-Hamas war reached a grim milestone of 100 days on Sunday, with more civilian deaths in Gaza and relatives of dozens of hostages still awaiting their freedom. There were also casualties in the West Bank and on the Israel-Lebanon border. The conflict has created a humanitarian catastrophe for the 2.4 million people in Hamas-ruled Gaza. The United Nations and aid groups warn and reduced much of the coastal strip to rubble. The UN says roughly 85% of the territory's population have been displaced, crowded into shelters and struggling to get food, water, fuel and medical care. Philip Lazzarini, head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, said diseases were spreading with the clock ticking fast towards famine. Violence involving Iran-aligned groups in Yemen, Lebanon, Iraq and Syria have surged since the war in Gaza began in early October. While a wider conflagration has so far been averted, fears increased following US and British strikes on scores of Yemeni rebel targets Friday. Undeterred, the Houthis have vowed more attacks in solidarity with Gaza against what they deem Israeli-linked Red Sea shipping. The Hamas government media office said Sunday that more than 100 people were martyred in the attacks last night until 6 a.m. in all areas of the Gaza Strip. With 100 days past, the world would have to ask, what has the war achieved other than the killing of the innocent? China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has called for the establishment of a Palestinian state and a ceasefire in Gaza, where 100 days of the Israel-Hamas war have killed thousands. In a press conference with his Egyptian counterpart, Sameh Shoukry, in Cairo, the top Chinese diplomat said it is necessary to insist on the establishment of an independent, fully sovereign state of Palestine on the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital. A joint statement from the two ministers urged an immediate end to all acts of violence, killing and targeting of civilians and civilian establishments. Shoukry and Wang called for an international summit for peace to find a just, comprehensive and lasting solution to the Palestinian cause by ending the Israeli occupation and establishing an independent, contiguous Palestinian state. Chinese President Xi Jinping has previously called for an international peace conference to resolve the fighting. China has historically been sympathetic to the Palestinian cause and supportive of a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Ecuador's security forces worked Sunday to regain control of prisons that had fallen into the hands of gang members after securing the release of nearly 180 officials held hostage inside the jails. The country's simmering security crisis erupted last week as the government and powerful narco gangs declared all-out war on each other after the prison escape of a dangerous drug lord. Inmates rioted in jails where gangs wield outsized control, taking prison guards and administrative workers hostage, while on the streets a wave of violence has left 19 people dead. Unverified images on social media of looting, brutal murders and other attacks have struck terror into the population. On Sunday, the army shared videos of prison walls being blown up and declared total control of a prison in the city of Cuenca, where 61 employees had been held hostage. They also shared images of hundreds of inmates, shirtless and barefoot, lying on the ground during the operation. On Saturday, the government first announced the release of 42 hostages before the remaining 136 were set free from prisons across 7 provinces. A severe winter storm has brought many cities in the United States to a near standstill, with heavy snow blanketing roads, driveways and streets. The dangerous freezing temperatures also affected political campaigns, sports events and travel across the country. The Arctic blast has led to power outages for hundreds of thousands of customers in the northeast and Pacific Northwest. The National Weather Service has issued a stark warning, with over 95 million people under wind chill advisories and some states expecting wind chills to plummet to a bone-chilling minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The frigid conditions are forecasted to persist, putting a damper on the bustling political scene in Iowa, where Republican presidential candidates have been forced to cancel events ahead of the party's first nominating contest on Monday. Torrential rains that turned avenues into rivers killed at least 11 people in Rio de Janeiro. The rainstorm hit northern parts of Rio particularly hard, where people died in a landslide, drownings and electrocutions. Firefighters were still searching for a woman who went missing after her car fell into a river as of Sunday evening. Water from the storm reached the roofs of cars on some stretches of Avenida de Brazil, a major thoroughfare in the city. Mayor Eduardo Paes decreed the situation an emergency and urged people to stay home for their own safety, and so as to not disrupt rescue and recovery efforts. A dozen bus lines shut down and several metro stations were closed because of water on the tracks. Some parts of the city received a month's worth of rain, typical in January, in just 24 hours. And a report from firefighters showed they had responded to 200 storm-related events. In Akari, one of the worst affected neighborhoods, waters flooded the basement offices of the Ronaldo Gazzola Hospital and businesses were hit hard. A national agency that monitors natural disasters said there was a high risk of landslides in 8 towns in the surrounding Rio de Janeiro state. Lava flowing from a volcano that erupted on Sunday near the Icelandic fishing port of Grindavik engulfed at least 3 homes just hours after villagers were evacuated to safety. A first eruption began at 8 a.m. on Sunday when a crack opened in the ground around 450 meters from the town. At 18:45 GMT, the Icelandic Meteorological Office, or IMO, said that fissures measured around 900 meters long and crossed over the main road to Grindavik. It was the North Atlantic nation's 5th volcanic eruption in under 3 years. The most recent occurred just weeks ago on 18th December. In the same region southwest of the capital Reykjavik. At least 3 houses were engulfed in fire as glowing orange lava flowed into the edge of the town of Grindavik. Most of the 4,000-strong population of Grindavik had been evacuated as a precaution on 11th November after scientists said a magma dike was shifting beneath them. At the time, a series of small earthquakes, sometimes hundreds per day, had created large cracks in roads, homes and buildings. Still to come, Frederick X takes Danish throne, ushering in a new era. Denmark's King Frederick X acceded the throne on Sunday, ushering in a new era after his mother Queen Margaret abdicated, with more than 100,000 Danes turning out for the unprecedented event. In front of a sea of Danes braving the winter chill and waving red and white flags, Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen then proclaimed 55-year-old Frederick the new king on the balcony of Christiansborg Palace, the seat of parliament and government. In line with Danish tradition, no foreign dignitaries or royals were invited on Sunday, and there was no coronation or throne. This is only the second time a Danish sovereign has stepped down. The last was Erik III, almost 9 centuries ago in 1146. Portraits and banners around the capital thanked the Queen for her years of service, with cheeky signs in the metro declaring, "Thanks for the ride, Margaret." The Queen stunned Danes when she announced her abdication in her annual televised New Year's Eve address, after having repeatedly insisted she would follow tradition and reign until her death. She attributed her decision to health issues after undergoing major back surgery last year. US voters venture into sub-zero temperatures Monday to kick off the Republican presidential nomination race with the Iowa caucuses. This is the first major test of whether runaway front-runner Donald Trump is as much of a sure thing as he appears. With a commanding lead in polls, the ex-president is expected to win the Midwestern state's first in-the-nation vote easily, as he bids to be the Republican standard-bearer against President Joe Biden in November. But Iowans may have to contend with the coldest conditions in the modern era of presidential election campaigns, with blizzards and a potential wind chill of negative 32 degrees Celsius forecast. Trump and his leading rivals Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis were forced to cancel appearances in the home stretch, as the threat to Monday's turnout added intrigue to a campaign season that is already something of an unknown quantity. Iowa is a notoriously poor predictor of the eventual nominee, but it is considered crucial for winnowing the field and as a springboard to the next few battlegrounds, which include Haley's home state. The swearing-in ceremony of Guatemala's president-elect Bernardo Arevalo was delayed for hours on Sunday, as Congress, controlled by his opponents, was locked in debate over the admission of his lawmakers. Arevalo's inauguration ceremony had been due to begin at 3 p.m. local time, following months of judicial machinations to block him from office after his vow to clamp down on deep-rooted corruption. The right-wing-dominated Congress was unable to agree on whether lawmakers with Arevalo's Semilla seed movement should be installed as regular deputies or as independents due to the suspension of his party. Outside of the legislature, hundreds of Arevalo supporters clashed with the police as they protested the delay. A statement signed by the European Union, Organization of American States, and other Latin American governments urged Guatemala's Congress to fulfill its constitutional mandate to hand over power as required by the Constitution. Meanwhile, EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said he would propose sanctions against members of Congress that prevent the transfer of power. The 65-year-old Arevalo, ex-diplomat and sociologist, pulled off a major upset when he swept from obscurity to win elections last August, firing up voters weary of graft in one of Latin America's poorest nations. Japan-Iran begin Asia Cup title challenge with strong winds. Stay with us. Kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, Iran beat Palestine 4-1 in their Asian Cup Group C opener this morning at the Education City Stadium, where a show of solidarity by Iranian fans and players was quickly followed by a football masterclass from the three-time champions. The Iranian fans gave the Palestinians a warm welcome and loudly cheered the squad before their national anthem was played. Once the game kicked off, Iran were ruthless in attack as they dominated the game and barely put a foot wrong. Saman Ghoddos created 2 goals inside 12 minutes for Karim Ansar Rifad and Shoja Khalilzadeh, while Ali Reza Jahanbakhsh set up Mehdi Gayedi for the third. But Tamer Sayam got one back for Palestine just before the break. Sardar Azmoun made it 4-1 after the break to put the game out of reach. And although the Palestinians managed to mount a couple of promising attacks, Iran held firm to go top of the group. The match coincided with the 100th day of the Israeli-Hamas war, the grim milestone adding extra significance to an occasion that went beyond football. Palestinian flags were scattered among the crowd of nearly 28,000 at Education City Stadium, and their goal just before half-time got the biggest cheer of the night. Despite seeing his side well beaten, Palestine's coach Makram Daboub said they will regain their confidence and achieve the goal of qualifying into the round of 16 stage. The Tunisian said a lack of concentration and overexcitement caused his side's poor performance in the game.
نشكر كل الجماهير يعني اللي تواجد في الملعب، الجماهير الإيرانية، الجماهير القطرية، الجماهير العربية، كل اللي ساند فلسطين، وهذا التضامن الكبير مع الشعب الفلسطيني، القضية الفلسطينية، يعني نشكرهم من جديد، وإن شاء الله يعني التشجيع هذا يتواصل في المباريات الجاية، مهم جدا بالنسبة لنا وباش نكون يعني حضورنا أحسن ونحقق هدفنا إن شاء الله.
Loud cries went up for the Palestinian anthem before the game, and the team's players put their arms around each other's shoulders. A brief moment's silence was held before kickoff, the quiet punctuated by cries of Free Palestine.
Inshallah, we look forward for the next game, and we try to make the people happy, the fans, all who support us. And I know it was bad today, but we will stay positive and look forward, inshallah.
Meanwhile, for fans, it was not just any football match, but also a platform to show their solidarity with those suffering in Gaza.
Palestine is my home country. I have born and raised in Doha we are here since 1958. So whatever we have the chance to come and attend a match to our country, this is the only way that we can stand with our country, because nowadays, as you know, that nobody can visit Palestine. Since I born, I never visited my country. So we are waiting such an event to come and support and to show how we are belongs to our country.
In another match, Japan came from behind to beat Vietnam 4-2 in their Asian Cup Group D opener in a thrilling encounter at the Al Tumama Stadium, where 5 goals were scored in the first half, and Takumi Minamino grabbed a brace. Japan are looking for a record-extending 5th Asian title and looked set for a comfortable start to their campaign when Takumi Minamino gave them an 11th minute lead. However, Vietnam shocked the 4-times champion with 2 goals from well-worked set pieces where Nguyen Din Bak and Pham Tuan Hai found the net. Japan came roaring back before half-time as Minamino levelled the scoreline with a calm finish from skipper Wataru Endo's pass before Keito Nakamura curled in a superb strike from the edge of the box to give Japan a 3-2 lead going into the break. The second half was pretty much one-way traffic, and though Japan took their foot off the gas, they put the game out of Vietnam's reach when Ayase Yuda scored in the 85th minute to seal the 3 points for the Samurai Blue. Meanwhile, Harimau Malaya head coach Kim Pan-gon said he is very positive that his men will be able to pull a surprise in their upcoming match against world number 87 Jordan at Qatar's Al Janoub Stadium tomorrow. According to Pangong, his squad is ready to take on Asia big guns, considering the national squad record of 7 wins, 2 draws and only 1 defeat since March last year.
I think this record can give us something, that confidence we can play that level, you know, around 87 Jordan. I think we want to maintain this our momentum to go through this tournament. I think we want to give something happiness to the Malaysia public. That is our aim.
He added several injuries in the national squad will not affect Harimau Malaya's campaign in the tournament.
There is little injury players, but still I think we can put full of our power for tomorrow game. Tactically, technically, strategically, I think all are ready for tomorrow game.
kejohanan bola sepak Piala Asia Qatar 2023. Kesebelasan terbaik Harimau Melaya kini bersedia untuk memburu tahta berprestij di Asia. Selasa 16 Januari, Malaysia bertemu Jordan 1 pagi di saluran OK dan saluran sukan RTM. Saksikan juga secara penstrima langsung di RTM Klik bersama RTM, official media partner.
Over in Riyadh, Vinicius Jr. struck a first-half hat-trick to fire Real Madrid to Spanish Super Cup glory in a thumping 4-1 win over rivals Barcelona yesterday in Saudi Arabia. Rodrigo rounded off Real Madrid's rout as they won the competition for the 13th time, avenging last year's final defeat by record 14-time winners Barcelona. Vinicius, recently back after injury, was sent through by a perfect pass by Jude Bellingham, and he slickly rounded Inaki Pena before slotting home. Vinicius imitated Ronaldo's classic jump and spin celebration in homage to Madrid's all-time top goal scorer. 3 minutes later, Vinicius pounced again, this time set up by Rodrigo, who exploited Barcelona's high line and cut the ball across for his compatriot to slide in. Xavi's side scrambled furiously for a response, and Ferran Torres hit the crossbar before Andrei Lunin tipped Robert Lewandowski's follow-up over. The Ukrainian goalkeeper could do nothing, however, to keep Lewandowski's vicious volley out in the 33rd minute, hammered in hard and low from the edge of the box. However, instead of fighting back, Barca defender Ronald Araujo swiftly gifted Vinicius a chance to complete his hat-trick from the penalty spot after tugging back the forward. Xavi rolled the dice in the second half with an attacking triple substitution, but Madrid soon had their fourth. Araujo completed a dismal night by earning a red card as he hacked Vinicius in frustration. Rodrigo was in the right place at the right time to convert after Jules Koundé blocked a Vinicius cutback searching for Bellingham. Over in America, new Inter Miami signing Luis Suarez trained with his new side on Saturday as the Uruguayan reunited with close friend and former Barcelona teammate Lionel Messi. Suarez, who signed a contract for the 2024 Major League Soccer or MLS season last December, also reunited with former Barca players and treble-winning teammates Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba. The Uruguay international joined Miami from Brazilian side Grêmio, where he scored 26 goals and provided 17 assists in all competitions, leading the team to 2 trophies last year. Suarez and Messi were part of the famous Barca attacking trio, along with Brazilian forward Neymar, which dominated Spain and Europe in the 2014-2015 season when they won La Liga, the Copa del Rey and Champions League. Miami won the League's Cup in 2023 following Messi's arrival, but did not qualify for the MLS Cup playoffs. They kick off the 2024 season on 21st February at home against Real Salt Lake, following 7 pre-season friendlies, including against Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr in Riyadh on 1st February. Now we make our way onto tennis. Novak Djokovic was dragged into a dogfight by teenager Dino Prismic and had to dig deep to open his Australian Open title defence with a 6-2, 6-7, 6-3, 6-4 victory in the first round on Sunday. At a shade over 4 hours, it was Djokovic's longest first-round match at a major, and he heaped praise on the Croatian qualifier for his performance on his Grand Slam debut. The Serbian initially looked fully in control of the contest at the Rod Laver Arena court, where he has won 10 of his 24 Grand Slam titles. Prismic had already shown glimpses of the weapons he possesses and broke the top seed with a brilliant cross-court winner early in the second set, forcing Djokovic to raise his game to break straight back. The 18-year-old world number 100 and stayed 59 Vander Zandschulp went toe-to-toe with his opponent in the next set before Sinner sealed the decisive break for a 6-5 lead and comfortably doubled his advantage. Sinner squandered 4 break points and then surrendered his serve to trail 2-0. In another match, 5th seed Andrei Rublev of Russia was pushed all the way by debutant Thiago Seyboth-Wild in his 7-5, 6-4, 3-6, 4-6, 7-6 on the opening day of the tournament. The often emotional Rublev was clearly frustrated at his inability to see off the Brazilian world number 78, who produced some sensational shots to frustrate the 5th seed and earn the support of the Margaret Court Arena crowd. Seyboth-Wild, who stunned Medvedev in the first round of last year's French Open, saved Fev rallied for the victory.
Now in women's tennis, Australian Open champion Aryna Sabalenka had to wait until close to midnight to kick off her title defense. But the ruthless world number 2 made quick work of German qualifier Ella Seidel with a 6-0, 6-1 victory on the Grand Slam's opening Sunday.
Time in asserting herself as she raced to a 5-0 lead in the opening set, which she wrapped up in just 22 minutes with a couple of cool backhand volleys at the net. Sabalenka, who briefly took the top ranking last year on the back of...
And that brings us to the end of the bulletin this afternoon. Wrapping up with a recap of our top story: 100 more killed as Israel-Hamas war enters its 100th day. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Saluran Berita.